welcome to the middle of chapter 2 in Bobby the Brave Sometimes. So far, they're at school and it's picture day. The morning flew by. In social studies, Mrs. Carlson talked about freedom of speech. We are lucky to be American citizens because we have the right to express ourselves. In some places, people can get sent to prison just for saying something that the government doesn't agree with. It's called oppression, when people are unjustly punished for speaking out, and those who do it are oppressors. Without warning, St. James stood on his chair and yelled, "I am the king of everyone." "Please step down, St. James," Mrs. Carlson said. She acted like she couldn't hear the entire class roaring with laughter. When he continued standing on his chair, Mrs. Carlson crossed her arms. "Now," she ordered, "or you will be sent to Principal Coon's office." "I was just expressing myself," St. James muttered as he sat down. Jillian Czar and the rest of the girls glared at him. They would make good oppressors, Bobby noted. "Now for something really fun," Mrs. Carlson announced. "As you know, every year my class puts on a musical. This year's show is Annie." Bobby raised his hand. "Annie is my big sister's name," he said proudly. "It's a lovely name," Mrs. Carlson told him. When she smiled, Bobby felt good, important even. Mrs. Carlson went on to tell her students that Annie was about a spunky girl who lives with the evil Miss Hannigan in an orphanage. During the show, Annie befriends a dog named Sandy and is later adopted by a rich man named Daddy Warbucks. In the Broadway musical, all the orphans are girls. However, in our Rancho Rosetta version, the show will be much shorter. Plus, our orphans will be boys and girls. Here is the sign-up sheet and a list of parts you can play. Write down your first, second, and third choices, Mrs. Carlson instructed. And remember, this show isn't about who's the best singer or dancer. It's about all of us having fun and working together. The room suddenly got loud as the sign-up sheet made its way around the class. Several girls wanted to be Little Orphan Annie, and lots of the boys wanted to be Daddy Warbucks. Bobby just sat on his hands and studied the crack in the ceiling. It looked like a spider with 5 legs. He didn't want to be in the musical at all, unless, of course, he got the only role worth playing. But with his luck, that was sure to go to someone else. Last year, for his 3rd grade play, Bobby was a tree, and not even one of the trees near the front of the stage. He was a back tree. "All right, then," Mrs. Carlson said. "I'm going to review the list. If more than one person has signed up for a particular role, I will draw names. After recess, I'll post the results. Remember, we'll be taking our class photo later this afternoon, so try not to get your clothes dirty." All the girls started giggling, except for Holly. She had never been a giggler. "I wore it this way on purpose," Bobby lied, fixing a steely-eyed glare on Jillian Czar, the way he had seen his father do when he wanted to freak out the opposing football team. The truth was, Bobby never bothered to check if his clothes were inside out or outside in or whatever they were supposed to be. There were more important things to do in the morning, like feed Koloff and Beatrice his fish. "Why would you want to wear your clothes all weird?" Jillian Czar asked. Her eyes narrowed. Bobby blinked and looked away. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Luckily, Chess spoke up. "Maybe Bobby's starting a trend." "A trend?" Jillian Czar threw her head back when she laughed. She was the only person Bobby knew who did this, other than the evil genius from that movie, Kid Cops. "That's not a trend. That's a dumb thing to do," she said. "Besides, Bobby Ellis Chan is so not a trendsetter. If you looked up 'not a trendsetter' on the computer, Bobby's name would come up. Bobby could feel his face turning red. He hated Jillian Czar with all of his heart, and even more. He hated her with all of his heart and his arms and legs and even his ears and nose. Bobby's a total trendsetter, St. James shouted. By now, all the boys had ceased being frozen Arctic robots and transformed into angry fourth graders. Hey guys, follow me. Before Jillian Czar could reply, there was a great stampede. All at once, the boys ran away, leaving Bobby alone with the girls. Had his friends abandoned him, he wondered? What was so bad about a backward inside out shirt? Bobby squirmed as the wolf pack circled him in silence. He knew from his report about wolves last year that the circling meant they were going to attack soon. Then, as quickly as they had disappeared, the boys came running back. Bobby felt a wave of relief wash over him. He hadn't been abandoned. The girls didn't dare rip him to pieces when he had backup. Bobby's heart swelled. St. James, Jackson, and the others had turned their shirts backward and inside out to match his. Right then and there, Bobby decided he would do anything for them. Anything. I suppose you all think that's funny, Jillian Czar said. Bobby grinned and glanced at Holly, who was trying to hide her smile. It is funny, St. James said, making a pig nose, and so are you, oink, oink, oink. Soon all the boys were oinking, and the air was thick with pig sounds, and an occasional moo and bark as Jillian Czar and her wolf pack retreated. Hey guys, St. James announced when the animal noises finally stopped. Besides the backward inside out shirts, I know how we can make our class photo even better. As they listened to his idea, everyone grinned. That's going to be awesome, Jackson crowed. Okay, so we're going to stop here for today. Thanks for listening. Bye.